Okay, this is the Pranzata podcast. Before we get into it, I have my friend James Applegate here, a longtime friend and fellow musician. He is a drummer from New Jersey. He also is the owner of the business, the James Applegate Music Academy. We just practiced this, so did I get it correct?
That was great. It was an hour well spent.
So before we get into it, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're into this kind of thing. This is a podcast where I interview local New Jersey, Philadelphia, and New York City musicians, comedians, different types of artists. So let's get into it. So James Applegate.
That is what they tell me.
And by the way, everybody, he has a lovely voice, so I'm really excited to have him here. And another thing too, before we get into it, I usually do live performances with my musicians, but the thing is, he's a drummer, so that would have been a really big pain in the ass for him. So if you want to stalk him and see his drumming, I can tell you that out of all my friends, he is my favorite drummer that I've met in person, and he's so good that it makes me sick. So tell them really quick where they could stalk you if they want to see a video of you, since we won't have a live performance.
If you want to check me out on Instagram, I'm the James Applegate. There's a lot of pictures of cats and stuff, so that'll help find me on the internet for sure. That's a good place. I also play in a bunch of different bands. My original groups are Replicant, which is a beautiful dissonant death metal band, Windfarer, which is like a cool atmospheric black metal band, and Woke Robot, which does beautiful hip-hop with big bands. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Also, I just want to let everybody know that it is not the evening, it is the morning. So we usually have a couple things to drink in the evening, but since it's the morning, we have a little Bailey's Irish Cream and coffee going on here. I already had mine, so now I'm doing the green juice, trying to get back in shape after the pandemic. So I always start my podcast off with questions related to self-awareness before we get into the artistic questions. And it's always fun for me when people I already know come on here, because I think I know them and then I'm always surprised by their answer. So
good, because I was planning on just lying, so this is going to be helpful. So
my question for you, James, is there anything currently going on in your life that is holding you back from progress? And if you need to take a moment to think about it, no worries.
Yeah, I've been working on this for a while, and it's like every night I lose consciousness for about 8 hours, and I don't know where the time goes. I'm sitting there doing something, and it's great, and then I wake up, sometimes not even fully clothed, and then I just don't know what happened. I just black out. So if I can cure that, nothing can stop me.
That's so funny. I always do so I do that self-awareness question, but I realize in every podcast I always look for a negative. So I'm actually going to ask you a positive self-awareness question as well. Is there anything you've done this week that you contributed towards your well-being that you're proud of? Like any mental well-being or physical health stuff? Is there anything that you're doing currently that you can say hey, I'm doing good?
Big negative. No.
Really?
No, that's BS. No, I've started gigging again, and that feels phenomenal.
Yeah.
Played with this cool cover band over the weekend, and we played in front of 1,000 people over down at the shore, which was really cool. And I also, teaching still is one of my favorite things in this life to do. It's been giving me a lot of help. And honestly, that's been the only sense of normalcy I've had the entire pandemic, is having students, young and old, being like, how do you do this? Yeah. And me going, I'll show you.
So you were telling me before, because we were chatting a little bit before we started the podcast, even though you're opening up offers to in-person lessons again, a lot of your students don't want to come in person anymore.
Yeah, people are finding that the old ways where you would drive 20 minutes and then sit in the lobby and then drive home, that's just a lot for a lot of people. And they prefer just me appearing in their homes on their talkie boxes.
I've noticed the same thing, and I was really surprised. I'm juggling 25, 30 students right now. Out of all those students, only one person actually came in person, and 2 people inquired about it, but then just ended up staying online. So only one of all my 25, 30-ish students are actually in person. So I find that interesting. I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be the new way. You know what I mean? I'm wondering after the pandemic, if a lot of companies are just going to adapt to this lifestyle. They're wait a second, why was I paying people to come here? Or students are going to be wait a second, I can just take lessons in my living room. Why the fuck would I, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Why would I ever leave my home for any reason? Which is fair, which is actually a bunch of companies are having problems with that, because this isn't necessarily a comedy bit right here, but companies have a really
quick break. There's a tech thing. Hold on.
Can't download your updates.
Okay, sorry about that. We had a little tech issue, so back into it. What were you saying?
No worries. But yeah, no, it's companies, a lot of them, they do what's called randomized scheduling, right? So that way, there's 6 days out of the week you could potentially be scheduled, and that makes it harder for you to leave.
Yeah.
Because you can't schedule night classes if I can't dedicate 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
Because one day I can do, the other one, maybe.
Yeah.
And they're having a lot of difficulty keeping people.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I can work from home, and sure, I'll make $10,000 a year less, but I don't have to spend that time in the car. So it evens out.
I think a lot of people definitely got spoiled from the pandemic, honestly, myself included. It did take me a little bit of courage to be back in person. I feel like you're one of those people who are no, back in person, let's do it. I did kind of get used to teaching from home and not having to see people in person. And but then after the one lesson that I did have in person and things opening up again and me going out, I'm oh no, I definitely need this, because I was morphing into a totally different type of creature before.
For sure. I thrive off human interaction, so the computer stuff's cool, but there's nothing like getting up in somebody's face and telling them that your thumb is still not on the drumstick. And then, just seeing the progress happen. Really quick, because we were talking about this in the kitchen. So I know guitarists, when they play guitar, they grow calluses, but I never realized drummers experience something. So James, I don't know if you want to, we won't be able to see it, or hold your hand up. I might edit it. Yes, as an audio medium, you may not be able to see my hands, but envision, if you will, baby skin that was just grated against the sidewalk. And that's kind of like what my hands look like right now. Why does that happen? Because you're holding, is this every drummer has calluses on their hands, or how does that work? So eventually everyone who does any sort of a high repetition movement over skin, it develops calluses, right? And sometimes it blisters. So I was playing on a back line that wasn't necessarily in the greatest of condition. And when you're performing in front of a bunch of people, you can't sit there and look bored or phone it in, because then your performance will suck no matter how well you play. So I just went ape. And my calluses will now be stronger because of the blisters. But wasn't fun. It kind of reminds me of that, what's that drummer movie that... Whiplash. Whiplash. You know exactly what I'm talking about before you even said it, where he has this instructor that's crazy, and there's one scene where his hands start bleeding or something. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that for some reason. The climactic scene of that movie actually takes place in my hometown of Denellen, New Jersey. The square mile of your dreams. I think you told me that. Didn't you say there used to be some type of music, an underground music scene or jazz scene or something in Denellen? So that's crazy. They used to host a music festival, and they would invite schools from all over the country to perform there. It was a big deal to some people, and then as they do with public schools, they cut the funding. So that was the end of that. But I guess whoever was doing research for the movie was we'll the Denellen Jazz Fest. That'll be a good spot. What college did that take place in? Was that Berkeley? No. I think it took place what was it trying to be? I think it was a fictionalized version of Juilliard. Oh, okay. Yeah, it makes sense if it was Juilliard though, because they were teaching antiquated music. So now that we're on we just mentioned Berkeley. So he went to Berkeley College of Music in Boston, right? Is that where it is, Boston? Because they don't have one in California or something. No, that's a completely different school. Oh. There's also one of those in Woodbridge, New Jersey. There's a Berkeley College in Woodbridge, New Jersey? Oh, yeah. Oh, so people could be I went to Berkeley, and it could mean a totally different thing. Yeah, that was the joke with me and my friends was oh, you're going, why the frick you going to Boston, bro? There's a Berkeley over in Woodbridge, right by the Staten Island. So tell us, now that we're on the subject of Berkeley, tell us about your experience at Berkeley. Do you think it was worth it? Because from what I gather from people, it's a really good music school, but it's one of the more pricier ones in the country. Oh, yeah. Do you think that experience was worth it for you? Or if you could do it over again, would you not go to school at all? Would you go to a cheaper school, or you 100% are cool with everything that happened? So I definitely wouldn't have gone to a cheaper school, because my problem with college in general was that I hate school. I hated being in school from the first day of kindergarten to when I graduated high school to when I did community college and dropped out of community college. And and it never clicked, right? I never felt like I belonged. I kind of felt like I just shouldn't be there, So Berkeley was the only real time in my life where I felt like I belonged somewhere. Yeah. Because I wasn't ostracized for my interests. Yeah. Which happened literally everywhere else I've ever been. Yeah. So the trade-off, of course, it was expensive. Yeah. But nuns can take an oath of poverty,
Yeah.
right? So can I do the same thing?
Yeah, good point. What kind of degree did you specialize in there? Just drumming performance, or was there a particular style of music that you specialized there?
So when I was there, I was doing like a lot of death metal, a lot of rock. I did one jam band gig that I shouldn't have done, but there was, they didn't give me enough prep time and blah, 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 blah. But my degree is in business and performance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was like a business end of that. Is that like one package, or is it like a separate?
So they have separate degrees for all of that. Then they have like hybrid combination degrees too.
Yeah.
And so, when I reached a point where I was like, all right, cool. I know that if I do just performance, I'm not going to have any idea on how to like make money. Right. But if I do business, I'm not going to learn the things that are going to make me a better hire in the real world. And so, I did what I did. And it was funny because when I graduated, I thought, okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll get like a boring desk job for a few years and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Nobody took me seriously once they realized it was Berkeley in Boston, not Berkeley in California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I interviewed probably about 15 times. And people were really excited to hear about Berkeley in California. But as soon as I'd mention, oh no, actually it's Berkeley up in Boston. And then the conversation would go from like, all right, so like
for for office jobs?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Oh yeah.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, I remember the tone of one of them. It was like a glue welding company. And the tone went from basically being like, yeah, we're really excited to have you on. We think you can lead the team in a cool direction to, and you like playing the drums? Yeah.
So
you write little songs.
It was like condescending kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they took it as like, oh, this isn't a serious person. Like this is, but dude, Berklee College of Music is fucking serious. Like you have to be really skilled. Like you have to, be really dedicated and hardworking. And like you got a business degree there. It's like the fucking, that was probably a blessing in disguise.
That's
probably
it worked
what
out.
that was.
Because it got me taking teaching more seriously.
Yeah.
And then I played a cool role in a bunch of local schools, building up their programs and learning the ropes through there, and then eventually opening up my own thing.
So actually, this is a good question because we were talking about this with my last guest from last week. We were talking about the realities of being an artist and balancing that out with like finances and work. Do you have any tips for that? Because like as artists, the thing that pays money isn't the thing that you want to do. Like you can get gigs in a cover band or whatever. And it's like, okay, this is fun. You become a better musician. It pays the bills. But ultimately as artists, we all want to create our own work. And that's the thing that, at least in the beginning, doesn't pay the bills. Do you personally have any like tips that help you like balance all that out?
You have to establish give and take, right? Because like, let's say there's a pandemic that devastates the entire world.
Yeah.
And then gigs start coming back and you're getting offered shows that are between, $300 and $400 a night.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, cool. That's helpful.
Yeah.
But then you also want to go out and play like basements in New Brunswick that won't pay anything, but it's going to be really fulfilling. And you have to be like, all right, cool. Can I do that? Am I going to be able to eat? Am I going to be able to be comfortable if I do that?
Yeah.
Or where's the balance?
Yeah.
And I suck at balancing sometimes. I think everybody in any of my bands can confirm that. Hey, boys. But like, it's an art and it takes time. And it's like balancing any type of relationship. Like you start dating somebody and then none of your other friends exist.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, you're like, oh yeah, I do stuff with you. Which
isn't even healthy. Like, because from
unhealthy.
From my past experiences, sorry if I keep looking here. I'm just like so anxious. I do this to all my guests. I need to eventually make enough money to hire like a tech person that could just take care of that shit. Like on the Joe Rogan podcast or something. But what was I saying? From past relationships, I've noticed that like, if I became like really indulged in that one person and just let everything else fall behind, didn't work out because I'm single. So obviously none of those relationships worked out, but it's just like not a healthy way to be in a relationship.
No. And being in bands is nothing more than just being in a series of unhealthy relationships with multiple people.
You're not the first person who's told me that. I had some friends who said like, being in a band was like having a girlfriend, except it's like having like 5 girlfriends because you're in a relationship with every person. And then it said being in multiple bands was like being with like 20 girlfriends, like because, and it's always a struggle because we were talking about this in the kitchen a little bit. Like when you're in a band, there's so many different opinions involved, and it's like you almost need a system, like you almost need a band leader because from my experience, like if there isn't a band leader, nothing gets done. Everyone's just like, well, what do you think? What do you think? But then there's the other problem where there's like two unspoken band leaders and then they butt heads. It's like such a tough balance, you know?
It's actually one of the things I love about being in Replicant, since there's only 3 of us. I love all my other bands too. But like what's cool about Replicant, since there's only 3 of us,
yeah,
the conversations are really quick and easy. Because if somebody wants to do a show, if you tell one person, you've already have 2/3 of the band.
Yeah.
You know, so it makes it easier when there's less people, because I've also played in like, you know, bands with 9, 10 people.
Oh yeah,
it's a little more complicated.
Is a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
So a little question about you as a musician. So I've known you for how many years now? Like 10 years? I don't even know. It's been a while since I've known you.
It has been some time.
Something like that. I don't know if I've ever asked you about like your background and what even got you involved in music. So I'm kind of curious, like I figured it'd be good for me to know and it'd be good for the podcast listeners to know what, like, have you always been into music your whole life? Like at what point did you decide I want to be a professional drummer as a career? Was this something you knew as a kid, or like how did it happen for you? I've never asked you this.
Oh, word. Oh, well, allow me to kind of jump in.
Yeah.
So I started playing music when I was around 8 years old.
Yeah.
I was a part of this Catholic school. I didn't fit in. Hated being there. Didn't have any real friends or anything like that. And the band director, who was also the gym teacher, saw that I wasn't clicking with anybody, that I wasn't making any friends, that I generally just didn't want to be there. And so he came up to me and was like, hey, I own a studio across the street.
Yeah.
I want you to come to my studio. I want to show you something, which nowadays gets you, you know, arrested. But I didn't get, you know, nothing bad happened. So I went to his studio, and he had like a black Yamaha drum set inside of like a recording station. So went in, that started it, you know, and then from there I just kept doing it. And it was the only thing that would like I could focus on. It was the only thing I really enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
So I would spend hours every day just like shedding on my pad. When my parents finally got me a kit, spent hours playing that until, you know, they begged me to stop. And then I would just switch to the pad or leave. Yeah. And I remember when I was in high school was the first time somebody said, well, you're going to do music for like a living, right? And until they said that, I never thought about it.
You just like, so this was in you at a very young age. It was like an obsession.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And no one in my family plays music. They're all very musically inclined.
You're Irish, right? Well, obviously, James Applegate. You're not Irish?
No, I'm definitely Irish. So actually, funny story about that. My mom's maiden name is Sheenan, but for the longest time, she would insist that she was Italian. And it's like, what screwed up part of Italy? The Italian Sheenans?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You're just silly. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I got really lucky, you know, because if that teacher didn't take time.
There must have been someone in your bloodline somewhere that was musical.
Absolutely not. Just not even close.
That's wild.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like it's interesting because sometimes you hear stories about people who like didn't know themselves and they found music when they were older. Like it just seems like you were made for it. Like it was like you were put on this earth to do it. He's a really good drummer, like I said, and he is obsessed. He's obsessive. So it's like interesting to know that he's been obsessive about it since he was a little kid. Have you ever experienced tendonitis as a result of your obsession?
No.
Really?
Yeah. I've been really lucky in that by doing marching band, I got a really solid hand technique. And then by obsessing over like Dave Weckl videos, Vinnie Colaiuta videos, and Jeff Queen videos, my hand technique developed pretty consistently. Like I remember being in college and the teachers, they'd give you like a really hard groove or a fill. And what it was designed to do was expose your weaknesses. So for the non-drummers, that means like when you're playing, if like your index finger, your ring finger, or more so your middle finger, ring finger, and pinky, if they come far off the sticks. But my hands generally don't do that unless I'm really, really fast or something. But like they would do that and be like, now your hands are great. Okay, cool. We'll get into like more advanced stuff.
It's funny because I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a while ago I heard you saying something about like the mistake a lot of drummers make with drumming is that they use their whole arms and really it's just your wrist. Is that what you were telling me?
Sort of. I mean, depending on what you're playing, right?
Yeah.
And this is going to get a little heady, so I apologize for the casual listener. But like, because when you're playing slower, you tend to use bigger movements, right? So if you're playing really slow, you're using part of your arm, a little bit of elbow whip, stuff like that. But then the faster you go, the smaller the movements become.
Yeah.
So that changes like the fulcrum. Excuse me. And, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I did burp. And I said, excuse me.
There's
I am
a lot
merely
of,
a man.
I'm not going to lie. There's been a lot of burping on this podcast because usually we're having like beers or whatever. But in your case, it's just, I guess the Bailey's Irish Cream is doing it to you, or the banana. Wait, I just had 3 bananas before and he only had 1. I was like, I feel bad. Do you want my banana? He's like, no, you're cool.
Yeah. She really only gave me the banana so she didn't feel bad about eating 4 bananas in one sitting.
Well, I'm trying to cut out like meat. We were talking before. So it might seem crazy to be eating 3 bananas, but when you think about it, if I'm not eating any like meat or anything, I'm just like, it's only like 100 calories a banana. So it's like only 300 calories. It made sense to me. But
you don't have to justify anything. We're on your side.
A lot of bananas. Where were we going before? The drumming technique. Yeah.
Yeah. But just generally, like, the faster you go, the smaller the movements become.
Yeah.
And like the problem that a lot of dudes do, and a lot of females do as well, is when you flare out your fingers and you start moving your wrist, you're activating the tendons, and then you're grating your tendons against your other tendons and your carpal tunnel. And that's where you get problems,
It's a kind of a similar thing in piano. So when I heard you talking about that a while ago, I was like, that's so interesting. It's literally the same thing with piano and singing. Like there's like technique issues in any, instrument, I'm sure, for saxophone, everything. But in piano, a lot of people think you play piano with your fingers, and that would be the logical thing. Like, yeah, you play piano with your fingers. But if you only isolate your fingers, like that is horrible. I'm sure you know that, know, but like if you just isolate your fingers and you don't utilize your entire arm, you're just putting all that stress on your fingers. So like for me, rather, it's really interesting. But like when I play piano, I don't even feel like I'm playing with my fingers. I just feel like the energy is being transferred to my fingers. I really you move your fingers, but it's more like you're placing your fingers on the note, but you're actually moving your wrist. Like it's wild. And I've experienced tendonitis for like a year, and I had to find a teacher to completely look at my technique and correct it. And she's like, you're all fingers. Like you're not using your arm. You're not using your core. Like there's so much more that can go into it, and fucking blow my mind. You know what I mean?
That's like the wild thing with like technique too. It's just like, you'll think you're doing it right until some like old person in a beat up garage is just like, nah, let me tell you something. You play it. It comes from the back and the spleen. And you're like, oh, my spleen. You're right. I've never thought of it that way. But, my God.
But you know what? She totally healed my tendonitis because I started doing what she told me to. And the thing with the back, it sounds wild, or it sounds like, some gypsy shit, but it's really true. You just like fucking put your hand on the piano, and rather than going like this and then tensing that up, you literally just like push your weight into your arms, which pushes the weight into your fingers. So it's like you barely move your fingers. It's fucking wild.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So question about pandemic. What was your attitude during the pandemic? Were you a depressed pandemicer, or were you I'm going to use the free time to like do a bunch of shit?
All over the place. Because like I knew probably like 3 weeks deep, based on conversations with friends far smarter than me, that were like, hey, this is really contagious, and like this could potentially last longer than like a month. And they were, at that point I was like, okay, crap. So I didn't really have time to like process it. It wasn't until my my brother-in-law and his boyfriend moved in with us, and we had a bunch of people living in the house, that it really started to dawn on me. And then probably like 2 months after that. But during that time, I also recorded drums for the Windfarer album, which came out sick. The drums for the Replicant record, which came out really, really sick. And then I also learned a bit about like running OBS, which everybody knows is a really, really great video streaming software.
Yeah.
And just use the time to learn things.
Yeah.
Because to me, like, as long as I'm learning, I'm going to be okay.
So there was a time where you thought like this will never end.
There was a time where I was like, okay, normal isn't going to come back
for a
really long time, because
there's
because when there's no vaccine, there was no end in sight. Because you have people either denying it's real, and then all their families die, and they say, okay, it's real now.
Did you have anybody in your family that got it, or any close friends, or anyone who passed away or anything?
I lost one really, really close friend, Carmen, which, rest in peace, buddy, and my godfather also passed away. Was
your friend Carmen a young guy?
They were both in their 50s.
But still, it's pretty young, Yeah.
I mean, and I know some people who were in great shape in their 40s that got it and then also passed away.
Oh my God.
And then a close friend of mine, his grandmother got it. She passed away.
Yeah.
And it's, it's not
I've heard some things going on now, I know, like, from what I remember in past conversations, you follow politics and stuff like that. I heard that there's going to be, like, possibly other variants of it. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
So always make sure to consult a doctor. Don't take my medical advice for anything. There's my disclaimer.
This is a podcast between two musicians, so don't take anything we take too seriously.
The thing that we have to worry about with variants is just one that is, like, vaccine resistant. Because if you get one that's vaccine resistant, then we have, the instances of people, getting this and then it affecting, quote, normal, end quote, healthy people. Because, like, right now, all the people that are getting it and passing away are unvaccinated.
Oh.
Right? Because, like, if you get it and pass away, I think it's either 100 or, like, high 90s in terms of percentile.
Yeah.
So there's more concrete evidence. But,
What do you think about, like, people that are like, I'm not going to get this vaccine because I want to wait and see if there's any side effects? Did you have any reservations about getting it at first, or? Yes
and no, because the science behind it, the RNA vaccine stuff has been going on behind the scenes for the last, like, 5 to 7 years, I think, something like that. Mm-hmm. And if they were going to do some sort of mass extermination experiment, they probably wouldn't give it to the nurses and doctors.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, I know some people may swear by coffee ground enemas and drinking salt water, but that's not going to help anybody, really.
Yeah.
And you need doctors, like real doctors, not Facebook doctors.
Yeah. Dude, that's the thing with, like, Facebook and everything like that. It's like, it's hard to know, like, what you read, what is accurate and what is inaccurate. So I kind of, like, try to stay off of Facebook now. I mean, like, I have it because you got to have it, like, for business related things. But, like, I got to a point, like, over the pandemic where I literally just unfriended tons of people. You know what I mean? Like, I'll let people follow me on Instagram that I don't know because it's a different thing on Instagram. But Facebook, it's like people are posting. You don't really get that so much on Instagram, but on Facebook, it's like constant people posting their opinions. And after a while, it's like, this is driving me fucking crazy. Like, I keep getting that's like the one thing with, like, and this is, like, another side subject in general. That's the one thing with, like, the technology era. It's like, there's so much information that information, like, has way less of a value now. It's just like, you don't even know what's valuable information.
Yeah. It sucks in another way as well, because it turns everything into an echo chamber, right? Because if we get rid of the people we disagree with, well, then we're just surrounded by people with our opinions, which, that on the one hand, that's great because you can feel supported. But then on the other hand, like, echo chambers is what gets people into misinformation. And when you're just listening to an echo chamber, all it takes is one voice to say something, and then everyone else will say it. And I mean, and that goes regardless of whatever side you land on for the vaccines.
Pretty much anything you Google too, you can find an article that supports your opinion.
So actually, that was really fascinating is that Google and all those algorithms are designed for user engagement. They're not designed for giving you answers. They're just designed to keep you involved more. Yeah. So if you're somebody who consistently looks up, I don't know, birds aren't real. Yeah. Then when you search things for birds
aren't real.
Yeah, look it up. But when you look up things related to birds, you're also going to be receiving articles that are inclined to make you more likely to click on those things. Yeah. And that exists whether that's your belief or that, Trump is really the president and is going to get inaugurated on March 4th. No, wait, it's the 6th. No, wait, it's in June. No, wait, it's going to happen in July.
One time I got an ad that definitely thought I was a dude, like, and I'm just like, what did I put? Like, I started getting, like, ads that were like single Russian woman in your area. I'm like, what have I been looking up that, like, the algorithm thinks I'm like a dude trying to get, like, a Russian bride or something? Like, I don't know what the fuck. And then there was a period of time where I was getting ads like, propose to your wife. Like, so the algorithm, I don't know what I looked up that, like, that the fucking computer thought I was, like, trying to propose to my wife, or I, like, wanted a Russian bride. But
I feel like those are polar different mindsets as well. I don't think somebody gets home from work.
It wasn't at the same time.
Oh,
it was like different phases of my life, I guess you could say. But I just, like, I find it so funny when, like, the algorithm fucks up and thinks you're, like, the wrong gender or, like, a totally different person.
So YouTube's algorithm caused a problem because it was recommending people videos. Yeah. But it was recommending people videos based on the fact that, like, it's just going to increase their user involvement. Yeah. So, like, if you look up, let's say, is the Earth round? you'll get like a 3-minute long video. But the top result is like a 9-hour documentary on why the earth is flat.
Yeah. Oh.
Right? And it's like, oh, well, what's like a person going to click? The 3-minute thing or 9 hours? Surely there must be something there. Yeah. And there isn't. There clearly is not. If you'd like, if you believe the earth is flat, I would love to have a paid conversation with you. And we can take it from there.
I see there's like a lot of conspiracy theories out there. And that's one that I'm like, I haven't even bothered to try to investigate that one because I'm just like, really? Like, where does that come? Like, where does that come from? The flat Earth theory? Like, what do you have?
Anti-Semitism.
Oh,
like all things in life, kind of eventually traces back to the Nazis because the entire belief that there's actually a giant ice wall surrounding the Earth, and Adolf Hitler, he was just trying to go past the ice wall, and that's why they killed him and soiled his name.
Do you remember the time that I called you?
Times are wild.
Do you remember the time I called you on the phone and was like, James, I just like, I don't know why I called you, but I was just like, I have to ask you for advice. I just got this really crazy guy who wants to take lessons from me. Do you remember that? He was a flat earther. I have to tell the audience about this. This is so funny.
Yeah.
So I had this student who inquired about taking voice lessons for his daughter. And so he brought his daughter, and honestly, he seemed pretty normal. Like the first time he came over, the only thing that was a little off is he was kind of dressed like a Buddhist, but like, I was like, it's 2021. That doesn't really mean anything. Like, I don't know what his religion is. That was the only thing that was a little odd about him, but he was friendly. His daughter was really nice. Nothing read as weird. And then, so he confirmed with the lesson, and then he called me on the phone and he was like, my daughter would like to take a lesson from you. And he's like, what are your fees? And I told him what the fees are. And he's like, cash or credit or whatever. And I was like, cash is fine. And he's like, but I can get you the good stuff. And this is where it all turned. He was like, I can get you the good stuff. He's like, silver and gold. He's like, I can get you the real deal. And I was just like, no, cash is fine. And then it just went worse. And he goes, Andrea, I love you because you have earlobes. And I was like, this is getting really fucking weird.
I remember reading that message and I was just like, I'm so happy I'm not a woman.
Yeah.
You know?
But here's the thing. It wasn't even a sexualized thing because I actually went to the police station and asked them about it. And they're like, oh yeah, that guy. They're like the earlobe guy. And I was like, you guys know him? They're like, yeah. They're like, I would stay away from that guy. That guy's like a ticking time bomb. He's going to just like, shoot something up any day now. But he had this
reassurance from the police.
Yeah, I know.
He's like, oh yeah, he's gonna snap.
Well, what the police told me, they were like, you can't legally arrest someone for being crazy. You can only legally do anything when they take action. They're like, he's probably gonna snap one day, but until he does, we can't legally do anything. Like, he didn't technically do anything wrong by telling you he loves your earlobes. But let me tell them about the earlobes. So he has this thing like, apparently different people have different types of earlobes. Some people have like a full earlobe and some people don't have an earlobe. Apparently I have a full one. What kind do you have? You have a full one.
I can't actually see.
You got a full one. Apparently I didn't even know this, but apparently some people don't have like a fatty earlobe. They just have nothing. And so this guy, his thing was like, if you didn't have an earlobe, you were evil and you were a snake. But anyways, how does this relate to flat earth theory? He would place flat earth signs all over Hillsborough, New Jersey. And he did get in trouble with the police for that because he wasn't allowed to do that. But like, it was like constant. He was like putting earth is flat, earth is flat. He even said that in the email to me. I said, I'm sorry. I made something up because I was like, this guy's crazy. I don't want to tell him that I'm scared of him. So I was just like, I'm so sorry. My schedule's full. I emailed it to him and I'm like, good luck finding another teacher. And he goes, it's okay, Andrea, earth is flat. Like, so it's just like, Jesus, like some people, but here's the thing. He had a YouTube channel and he had like tons of like followers on it. Like people were like praising him. And
there's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I think they're kind of cutting down on that now. Like I think either Facebook or YouTube, they're like kind of cutting down on things that are just like really out there.
They're trying. But when you have people that are convinced that they believe in a real conspiracy theory, and then people start cracking down on it, that just perpetuates the conspiracy. Because now it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Now it's dangerous that I feel like blades of grass are actually microphones. I can't just say that online because the government knows I'm telling the truth. And then
I actually thought about that too. So what's your opinion on that? If somebody has a crazy conspiracy theory online, do you think it's right that it gets pulled down? Like, do you think it's moral to not allow people to have crazy conspiracy theories? What's your opinion on that?
So my opinion is it's up to the private company's terms of service, which we all agree to. So it doesn't even matter what we think, because like if you sign up to use a platform, there's things that you're allowed to do on it and things that you're not allowed to do. Yeah. And by the virtue of using Instagram, for example, they tell you, all right, no nude pictures and nothing that's profane. We'll put that in air quotes because profanity is totally subjective. So by doing that, if you violate those terms of services, yes, then you're going to get banned. Yeah. You know, I think the problem is when the banning isn't consistent. Yeah. Because like one of the problems that all these social media companies have is the largest accounts that generate the most user engagement all break those rules.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like they pick and choose who
they enforce,
who can say and who can do what, because like if it's getting views, it's getting views. So fuck it.
Because on the one hand, this person is, you know, every time they tweet, it's getting 1 million shares. Yeah. But on the other hand, they did try to incite an insurrection. I don't know. Maybe we should. This is the line, you guys. This is the line. Yeah. And then it looks like you're playing favoritism because you haven't played favoritism or even partialism over the years.
That's probably why a lot of things just end up being left up, like even if they're wild like that. Because I think this YouTuber I was talking about still exists, the one with the flat earth theory. I think some people just don't want to get involved. Like they're just like, I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm getting views on my website. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. But then the problem then becomes when people are like, hey, so I got banned because like my nipple was showing. Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, you know, that sucks. But you know, 3 weeks out and it's like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Your platform was used to insurrect a genocide. Yeah. And they used the chat rooms and the boards to do all those things. And they were all still on your website. And it's just like, I guess they are. I think Facebook's official comment on that, because Facebook is in trouble for that exact situation, was we're really curious to use this as a moment for growth. Yeah. In response to their platform being utilized for genocide.
Oh my God. Did you ever hear about I know you have, because you hear a lot about this stuff, the QAnon theory?
This might not be safe to talk about. Q disappeared, so who knows what happened.
I have some friends that were into that, and I'm just like, this just fucking went over my head. Like I'm just like, like it was so dark that I was just like, I don't even want to invest. It was like same thing with the flat earth. I'm like, I don't even want to investigate this.
I just think it's really interesting how everyone who's involved in the QAnon conspiracy just happens to disagree with Donald Trump. Yeah. Isn't that a funny little coincidence? How like any Democrat is a rapist and monster, but Matt Gaetz, who is, you know, being investigated for sexual trafficking of minors, isn't. Yeah.
I actually thought of that too. I'm like, that was like the shit between the lines. I was just like, exactly what you said. I'm just like, why are all like the pedophiles on the Democratic side, but not on that side? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, you love to have good conversations about it, but then the people that believe in those things will go and shoot up a pizzeria because they think that there's Hillary Clinton is molesting children in the basement.
Oh, here's a contradiction in the theory too that I thought about. Like apparently the adrenochrome, if people don't know what QAnon is, you should definitely look it up. But I'm not an expert on it, but from what I read, apparently they believe that these evil politicians are drinking baby blood, and then in the baby blood is adrenochrome, which gives you vitality and youth. But then they say that Biden has like no vitality and youth. So I'm like, if he's drinking the baby blood, why is it, you know what I mean? Like,
well, you can't point out the immediate contradictions because then they get mad and they shoot up pizzerias. Like, you know, it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Like I was It's an insane time to be alive. Yeah. Because, you know, people will choose to believe what they want to believe.
I feel like I'm really glad that I'm not young. Like I mean, I'm not old either, but I'm glad that I'm not like a kid who's like, my brain is only exposed. Like, cause you know, when you're under the age of 18, your surroundings really form who you are. And I can only imagine like either the kids when they get older, they're either going to be some of the strongest people out there because they lived through so much shit, or they're going to be the fucking craziest. I'm not sure which direction it's going to be, but all I know is that like the young people today, like they're putting up with crazy shit that when I was younger, it was never like this, you know?
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on that.
You think we had some crazy shit when we were younger?
Do you not remember watching thousands of people die when we were in like 6th grade on TV? Or the economy entirely collapsing in 2008?
Yes, you're correct, but I was only like 11 or 12 when that happened. I was pretty young, and I didn't have like the internet. Like some people had the internet, but I didn't have a smartphone or anything. So I actually didn't learn about a lot of that because they didn't talk about it in school. They actually didn't, because I guess at my age they were just like, they told us about it. They were like, hey, there was an accident like in New York City. Like they just kind of kept it simple, but they never explained the political reasons why. And because of that, I actually didn't really learn about that stuff in detail till I was an adult.
So from where I used to live, you could like see the smoke.
Yeah.
And stuff, and we watched it happen on TV.
See, now that's different. Like if you're watching it on TV and you live right in that area, it's like, yeah, you're exposed to that shit. But in my case, I was kind of like oblivious. Like they kind of hid it from us. You know what I mean?
I think so. The larger point of what I was saying, or trying and failing to articulate, was just like there's always been that ridiculous underbelly of people that think. I think just now the big problem is that they can communicate with each other.
I was just going to say that I was going to make a point that I now disagree with my own thought. I was going to say, here's the difference though. At least probably then there was a consensus of what happened, but no, actually that's not true. There were a bunch of crazy conspiracy theories about what happened.
Like for example, in World War II, there's audio recordings of Hitler denying the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, that's ridiculous. And then you can also find those same recordings of people in the 1950s, after they established global warming, and then you can find the same people once they got their paychecks saying, nope, not real, doesn't exist.
But don't you think if that happened today, if 9/11 happened today, it would be fucking wild, like online, like with all the crazy shit? Like, don't you think there'd be like sub theories, like there'd be theories and sub theories, like there'd be tons of theories? So
I was actually in Boston during the terrorist attack.
Holy shit.
Like I was there, and I've got great luck wherever if you see me moving in, and just be like, we should probably like clear out the neighborhood.
We might have to cancel this podcast. I don't know if you should be here.
Probably get canceled for other reasons. Hey, but so I was there, and then like it's wild because I was up the street at the YMCA from where the bombing actually happened. Like I saw the ambulances fly there. I went to the finish line, and there's a whole thing that happened there. But like when you're in that situation, and then you go online and you see people immediately trying to like solve the case. Like there was a kid he was like a college student, and they like, I think it was Reddit, was like, oh yeah, this guy, he's the one who did it. And they found out his name, they found out where he lived, and he killed himself. Because
Holy
he had
shit. Yeah, I didn't know that.
And then it was whoops, sorry, they were wrong. You're
right. There was a lot. Now that I think about it, like I didn't have a smartphone then. I don't even know if they had smartphones then, but I do remember
during the Boston bombing. Yeah, dude.
Was it?
The Boston
I don't think I had a smartphone.
Oh, I thought you meant like in general if they were available. I was like, it was like 7 years ago.
Yeah, but I just remember. Like, yeah, we have smartphones and we had them then, but I feel like now I feel like having a smartphone now is a lot different from having a smartphone then, because I feel like back then people chose whether they had one, and not everybody was so connected to their social media on it. Yeah. So they were there. But now that you mention it, even when I was like still in high school, there was like chat rooms, and I remember there being like a phase of like, people being internet bullied over like being gay. I remember that was like a thing. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember like in colleges there would be like a lot of cases of like people getting caught with having sex with someone of the same gender, and their dorm mates or whatever would record them and they would kill themselves. Like I remember that being a thing. Like, so yeah, you are right, there was a lot of fucking shit that went on when we were younger. It's crazy to think that the Boston Marathon like feels like a long time ago. That just goes to show how old I'm getting.
Time is wild.
Yeah. So I'll ask you a few more questions before we end the podcast today.
Sure thing.
Any advice about, because you were an experienced gigging musician. I had a gig in the city yesterday, New York City. In your opinion, are they worth it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely yes.
Absolutely yes.
Because it was like one of my first times doing a gig in the city, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I ended up getting a parking ticket that was more than the actual gig. So I ended up losing money on top of like driving there, paying the tolls. So I'm just like, the experience was amazing. Like it was so much fun, but I fucked up the logistics of it. So any advice on how to do gigs in the city? Because you have to bring a drum set. So what do? You drive there? Where do you park? Like what do you...
So luckily with most New York gigs, there's a back line. Like there's an art to gigging drums in New York because you have to know what you're bringing. Like if you look really closely, a lot of the kits don't have wing nuts on top because it just makes it really fast to switch over. It's kind of a flex with like the New York guys because they'll switch ride cymbals in the middle of performances just as a way of being like, look, I can do this, you know? But no, absolutely. The city's where it's at.
Would you ever move to New York City?
If it was at all possible, sure.
Yeah.
Like I'm not one of those people that's just like, you know, the city's overrun with crime. It's like, no, it's not. It's proportionate.
Pretty much
everywhere.
all, not only that, but all cities have crime and like all places. I was thinking of moving to Austin, Texas, and I just heard, I don't think I am now. I think I'm going to,
power grid.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick more with like the New York City area now. I mean, I could change my mind later, but they had a shooting just the other day. You heard about that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like no matter where you are in what city, there's gonna be crime, and not in the city. Like there could be crime right here in Somerville, New Jersey.
Oh yeah.
So
like at the end of the day, when it comes to like gigs like that, the money's great. If you're getting paid, that's really really important. But like being there and getting the experience and actually doing it is invaluable. You cannot possibly put any sort of monetary number to that because like, let's say somebody calls out and they're like, yo, we need somebody to host, right? Or we need somebody to come in and do stand up or to play piano or whatever. They're going to think, all right, who did I see that was able to get here and do it?
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for.
That's how I looked at the experience. I was like, man, I really fucked up the logistics of this. Like,
but you'll learn.
But I learned, and I would do it again because I'll just like tell them I did a gig in the city yesterday, which was very interesting, but it was like perfect for me because I do stand-up comedy and I play piano, and I'm always like juggling the both. But this was a really cool experience where I got to play piano with comedians. Like, so you know how like when they introduce a comedian and they usually play like music, they actually had a live musician in this case. So like when they'd be like next comic, Joe List, it wasn't Joe List, but that was the first one who came to mind. I would like play a little jingle and they would go on stage. It was a pretty easy gig because I didn't have to like play the entire song. I only had to play like 15 seconds of the song, and it was fucking awesome because I was on stage like next to like the sweat dripping from some awesome comedians like right in front of my face. So I would definitely do it again, but I'm like, okay, next time I'm bringing a smaller keyboard so that if I want to take the train in, I can just like put it in a backpack. I'm not going to fuck up the parking situation again. And you said something about packing your own food if you're doing long gigs. Yeah.
That one is like the biggest game changer.
Yeah.
Because like, I currently live in the mountains, so everything is a hike, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you're doing a gig in the city and it's going to be, for most people, it's like a 2.5 hour drive. Let's say it's just a 2.5 hour drive. Yeah. If you finish playing at 1:45 in the morning, you take all your stuff apart, you load up. Yeah. Well, now you're hungry. Well, if you stop and you get fast food, there's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're eating garbage food.
That's another thing too. It's like you get fed for free at a lot of these gigs. But if you want to stay in shape, and I'm into that, like I'm into fitness and nutrition, it's like, or at a certain point you have to kind of turn down the free food because it's like, unless it's like a restaurant that has different options, but a lot of the times if it's like late at night, it's like, oh, we'll give you a free chicken fingers or chicken wings. And it's like, okay, that's not going to work,
long term.
Once in a blue moon, fine. But then if you're getting gigs every single week, well, then it's like, okay, this is your diet now. So it's not good, Yeah.
So that's why I pack food and I keep it in my car. So that way, like, I finish loading up my car, I, sanitize my hands, do a wet nap so I don't feel disgusting. Yeah. And then I'll eat, like, guacamole or hummus or, like... something
nutritious that's going to fill you up.
Yeah, something dense. And then sometimes I'll have coffee brewed beforehand. Just that way I don't have to stop. Yeah. Because when you're doing any sort of travel gig, anytime you stop, it's a minimum 15 minutes added to your commute.
Yeah.
And, like, God forbid you stop and then... there's a line at Wendy's. Oh, well, crap. Now you're going to sit in line for 20 minutes and then you're going to get your food and you're going to eat it, but while you're eating it, are you going to pull over? Are you going to eat cautiously and drive? I'm not sure if that's legal. I'm not, and I've never done it ever. I've never broken any laws.
I'm not going to lie. I've eaten like full on like a burrito bowl at Chipotle while I'm driving. I don't even know how I do it because I have to use both hands.
I did something similar with Chipotle. I had a gig in Maryland, and so I just got giant 2 burritos. Yeah. And then just downed them while I was driving. I was just like, no, this is fine.
Do you get hangry? Like, are you a hungry boy?
Yes. I get hangry, and I'm not sure if you guys can tell by listening to me on this podcast, but I don't hide how I feel. So if I'm starting to feel hangry, my funny pointed comments might just become, Jesus Christ, dude. Okay, come on. All right, cool. No, this is great.
I'm very I'm just going to be honest. You're very intimidating. I'm sure people tell you that, or like you've heard that. You don't feel that way? People have never told you that?
I don't. I think I am the least intimidating person.
I don't mean it in a bad way. It's not like you're mean, but because you're so open about the way you feel. There's been something going on in my head lately where I'm like, I'm newly single and I'm 33. This is terrifying. Like, I have to do, like, someone told me to open a Tinder account. I fucking hate it. Like, thank God you're married and you're in your 30s, because can you imagine having to do this in your 30s? Well, I'm telling you, it's fucking crazy. I hate it.
Yo, just join a cover band, Andrea. Just join a cover band.
Yeah, actually, that's true. But that'll work. But it's just like, I have to do this again in my 30s. And one thing that's been going on in my head is like, I've been having anxiety about like, am I too dominant? Like, am I too like, because I'm a very ambitious woman, and I'm wondering if like that scares people. And I'm like, I wonder if my energy is like too dominant. And then I was just thinking with you here, I'm just like, I don't feel dominant around you. Like, you're dominant. Like, you're very dominant. Like, I'm like, okay, so there are guys out there that will like calm me. Like, there's dominant men out there, you know what I mean? There's like a lot of different energies out there, and I'm like sometimes worried like maybe my energy overpowers men and it's like a turn off. But I'm like, no, you're a very like dominant energy, you know?
Neat.
Yeah.
I don't know. My only thing in regards to that is just be you all the time. Because like people get in relationships and then they're like, I'm not going to laugh at things that I think are funny, or I'm not going to do things I enjoy. And then I'm like, cool, but you're not being you, right? Like if you feel like you're a dominating personality, just own it.
I've thought of that too, because like sometimes I'm like, do I need to be? I wore a fucking dress. Like, this has actually been on my mind. I wore a fucking dress today to the grocery store. I was just like, because I've been doing. Here's the thing: you get stuck reading things online, and sometimes you get stuck reading things that don't make any fucking sense. But I'm like reading things like, oh my God, like the internet and all the blogs, they have me thinking that like I need to be more feminine. I fucking braided my hair, wore a dress. I'm like following the advice, but you're 100% correct. Like, then I'm going to attract somebody who isn't my person.
Yeah. And then like you hang out with them for like 6 months and you're like, oh crap.
And then you have to like,
you don't actually like me. You like this person I've been pretending to be.
This like curated version of me. Like, you know what I mean?
That's what, like, so me and my wife, she's super cool. I love her to death. We're married, so I guess that's obvious. Yeah. But like the first time like I met her for real wasn't the first time I ever met her.
Yeah, she like took her guard down and like showed her. Yeah. Incorrect.
So the first time I met her, she added me on Facebook. You know, we talked a little bit, and then a few years went by, and she unfriended me from Facebook.
What up?
Oh, what a monster! Yeah. What a monster! And so we happened to link up in Boston, because she was friends with a friend. She was from New Jersey, and we both went to school in Boston. And we were hanging out at the same bar, and she came up, and she's like, oh, hi, I'm Kelsey. And I said, hi, my name's James. You unfriended me on Facebook about a year ago. And now we're married.
That's wild.
Oh, yeah, because that's just who I am. I thought it'd be really funny. Yeah. Like, literally, the only thing I thought was like, oh, this is going to be funny. And that's how I go.
I'm inspired, because you're right. I need to stop. Like, if I don't want to wear this fucking dress and braid in my hair, like,
yeah, because it sucks. Because I showed up wearing the same dress, and then one of us had to get changed, and I'm the only person that had to change of clothes.
We actually complimented each other. He has like a little YOLO, and I have like yellow lemons on. I actually do like this dress. It's just that for some reason lately, I've been wearing a lot of like clothes that make me look like a badass superhero. Like I've been wearing these like Mortal Kombat looking like leggings and shit, and that's been like what I feel comfortable in. But then like I said, I've been reading all the blogs like saying that I need to be more receptive to the male energy. So I'm like,
the hell?
Okay,
Is it like 1950s housewife blogs?
I don't know. I mean,
55 ways to please your man.
Listen, I gotta figure out how the fucking game works. But I think I'm just gonna fucking, like you said, be myself, and then
yeah, dude, 100%. Like shoot whiskey and stare somebody in the eyes and just be like, "You'll do. Come here," and just see what happens. You know, if they're into it, great. If they're not, they get a fun story. You get a fun story.
Not that I'm not that fucking dominant. Like I'm like somewhere in the middle. Like I'm very feminine in the nurturing way. Like I love to cook, but I'm not necessarily like let me braid my hair and wear a dress and just laugh at your jokes. Like I'm not necessarily.
You've done all of those things in the last 45 minutes. You braided your hair, you're wearing a dress, you've been laughing at me.
I think I'm just like practicing a bit, and you know, I gotta give it up. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm deleting Tinder too. I hate it. I don't like it. Comment in the comment section below. Like, do you like Tinder? I don't know. I saw a dick the other day. Like we were talking about people putting things on websites they're not supposed to. I was doing the swiping and someone posted their dick for their bio picture and I reported them.
That is fair.
Yeah.
Fair. You know, I've been out of the dating pool for a while.
A long time.
So fellas, you know, maybe the game has changed a little bit.
A lot.
But normally you say, "Hey," or you have like a pickup line where it's like, you know, something smooth. But if you go full swing, you're probably going to strike out. Like if you walk up, like imagine if you walked up at a bar and your friend's like, "Hey, I have this really cool friend. I want you to meet my friend." No. And you turn around and you're like, "Hey, my name," and then there's a penis. You would not want to say hi to that person. Or maybe they're just that dominant that they know what they want.
And maybe someone out there is going to be like, "All right, like let's do this."
Although I have to say, I feel like that doesn't actually happen. I feel like everyone's just universally like, if you're showing me a picture of your dick, you are a dick.
Yeah.
You know?
We were just talking about this yesterday with my dad. Apparently there was some governor. I don't remember what he was, but Anthony Weiner. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir. Yes.
He was. I never actually. I'm so out of the fucking loop. I don't know anything. But like, apparently there was this Anthony Weiner that was sending pictures of his wiener to underage girls, and apparently they actually forgave him and gave him a second chance, and he did it again. Yep.
He had like a weird Spanish name he gave himself, so that way he wouldn't get discovered. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
So
no good. No good.
All right, we're going to end the podcast today. We've been going for a while. This guy's got to get to his job. He's got a job at the James Applegate Music Academy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode today. I had a lot of fun. Before we exit, let them know where they can stalk you.
You can stalk me on Instagram, the James Applegate. If you find me on Facebook, I probably won't add you. So stick with Instagram. Send me some DMs. You know, if you disagree with anything I said, cool. If you thought it made sense, cool. All my groups are going to have music coming out soon. My band Replicant just released a cool single called Ecto Skull. Yeah. And if you like that, we also have another single out called Caverns of Insipid Reflection. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely check out, at the very least, if you don't want to stalk him, at least check out his drumming. Like I said, he's amazing. I wish we could have done a live performance, but that would have been a real pain in the ass.
I just don't want you to get evicted because they will complain.
I actually had a music rehearsal here the other day, but he had like a, what the hell is that little box you sit on?
The cajon.
Yeah, he had a cajon, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But anyways, this is the Pranzata podcast. We talked about a lot of interesting things today, so don't forget to comment on anything if you agreed or disagreed with anything. And again, don't forget to hit subscribe and like if you enjoyed yourself and you want to come back for next week's podcast. I post something every single Thursday. Sometimes I'm a day late, and that might actually be today. So every now and then it's going to be on Friday. But Thursday, mostly, sometimes Friday morning, I put out the podcast episodes. This is the Pranzata podcast. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Whee!